Hi everyone, welcome to another fabulous guest chat, which I know it will be. And this one is yet again something a little bit different. I'm trying to mix things up on this podcast and bring real conversations that can affect the way we show up in our business and brands. So today I'm chatting to Emma Benyon. Emma is a motherhood and self-care coach, all about helping busy mums to feel less overwhelmed, give them more energy, more clarity, just help them to cope that little bit more. As a mum of three, I'm all for this, and I definitely see a need. And this can definitely help, show up more in your business, also find that balance, I should say. So let's bring Emma on, have this conversation. And if you are a busy parent, I think you're going to love this. If you're not, and you're still just a busy person in business, you're still going to take so much from it. Okay, I'm going to bring Emma on. So Emma is quite close to me. She's in the Preston area. We have had a chat before on my YouTube Chats with Carly, so do check that out. That's probably going back 4 years. And I just was desperate to get her back on to have this chat in full. Okay, let's bring Emma on. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Emma. There we go. We are live, well, as such, as live as can be on the podcast. I've just given you a glowing introduction. I've said that we have had a brief chat before on my Chats with Carly on YouTube, but I was really wanting to get you back on and have this in full. And in that time, actually, you've really transitioned and blossomed in your own brand and business. So it's just going to be so great to have this chat all about juggling motherhood with a business. And it can affect how we show up, can't it? As a mum of three, it's definitely rocked my business journey. You have one, don't you? And then even one, it's hard work, isn't it? So let's
Mm,
start with a quick introduction from yourself, Emma. I've introduced you. Let's see from your point of view, tell people what you do, your journey, and how motherhood, how it affects you in your business as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Carly. So, I'm Emma. I'm a self-care and motherhood coach and educator. So, I support mums who are busy juggling all of the different things from running a business to the school run to also perhaps having a career, very much like myself. So, I'm also a full-time teacher, teaching 16 plus, and I have a 6-year-old as well. And so, yeah, life is very, very busy. So I completely embody everything that my clients and the moms that I work with are doing too. So my journey, I guess, started when I fell pregnant with my daughter Isabella and really struggled with that transition into motherhood and had a really difficult pregnancy, was really poorly. And after she arrived, just struggled to bond with her, to build that, kind of relationship, I guess, and was diagnosed with postnatal depression when she was about 5 months old. Between that time, so between her being born and that diagnosis, I started my own business because I needed something, I was looking for something that kind of, I guess, bridged that gap between working full time and having a career and having something that was my own to then this roller coaster, let's call it, of motherhood. And I guess being in this, space where I didn't have any control, I couldn't predict any of the outcomes. And it's very different, isn't it, to go from a career that you are confident in and really good at, let's say, and baby arrives and it is a massive learning curve, isn't it? And some things you get right and some things you don't. And that journey really taught me the value of caring for myself and how absolutely important it is that I do that, how I model that to my daughter as well. And ultimately, even from the really early days of running my business, that was a massive focus in how actually we as moms can take care of ourselves in a way which is simple and easy because life is busy. It has so many demands. We have so many expectations placed on us. We are juggling all of those balls, whether they are glass balls or whether they are plastic. It really doesn't matter. We are juggling all of them. And actually caring for ourselves can fall to the bottom of that pile. And often that is the ball that we drop. And dropping that ball can be quite catastrophic, can't it? Because then we are burnt out, we are exhausted, we are depleted. And actually, how we then cope with everything else in our life can just be so much more difficult. I'm saying that, and people are going, oh, come on, Emma. Like, of course, that's the ball I'm going to drop first. Everything else takes priority. And it's so easy to sit here and say that, isn't it? That actually you need to be taking care of yourself. You should be doing that. You should be doing this, all of that stuff, which ultimately becomes all of that stuff we have to wade through before we even start caring for ourselves. And ultimately, that's what I really try to teach and get out there, because there is a way to do it that is simple and easy, that doesn't feel like it's adding something extra to our to-do list. That actually, if we do drop that ball occasionally, because at some point we're probably going to drop all of those different balls, let's be honest, um, that actually, if we do drop it, it's not catastrophic. It is actually okay. Well, I can pick that up again tomorrow. I can pick it up again in a week's time, and actually, things are maybe where I need them to be. But actually, it's not too much of an issue because we've already resourced ourselves and filled up that energy fuel tank. So that's what I'm really passionate about, because of my own journey, because of my own experiences, also just because I know how important it is, and ultimately trying to get it to a place where actually it is super accessible and it doesn't come with all of that other shit we have to kind of like wade through to get there, because that is such a barrier.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And we've been connected for a while. I know your absolute passion on this. And I followed probably part of that journey from, I can't even believe Isabella's 6 now.
I know.
She was a dot when we first connected. I'm sure she was a baby. So that shows how obviously how motherhood
Mhm,
flies. But there's so much I want to pick apart there. And I think I'll start with, this is a really good example. I'll start with this and move on to something else. I'll try to remember this.
mhm,
Just the journey itself. I'm hot on this. So I always say about it being a brand journey, a brand soul
mhm,
journey, that we are really connected to this soulfully. And I love when something comes from your own struggles, your own experience, because you're bringing it and you're the example that actually you've worked through this.
mhm,
So I know from even from what you just said there, it can sound quite flippant, can't it? When we say, look after yourself in motherhood, this is the benefit, this, this. But you are quite good at sharing your journey as part of that, because there's been some quite dark times in there for you, hasn't there?
mhm,
It's not just that, oops, I wasn't looking after myself well and I was a little bit tired. This can go so much
mhm.
deeper and darker. And it's no wonder then when we're thinking about our business and we're juggling all these balls, it's no wonder, in a way, the first ball to drop. I love that analogy, by the way. I'm doing it here on YouTube. You'll see me fake juggling. Oh dear. And no wonder I was the first one to go. But in a way, and I felt this at different stages. So I've got 3 girls. My eldest now is 12, youngest is nearly 9. And at different stages, I've thought, oh, right, I'll get back to my business. Oh, I'll be able to focus when they do that, when they go to school, when they do that. But ultimately, that next ball to drop is my business.
Mhm,
So this could be anything in life. If people are in businesses, just juggling something else, looking after other, like elderly parents, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to bring other things in.
mhm,
But that's difficult, isn't it? To How do we stop that? Let's bring that back. So that
mhm,
journey, for one, I love that you brought the struggles and it's been really tough for you, but you brought us in something positive. And then from a business point of view, how do we keep on track? How do we keep focused when motherhood's so demanding, isn't it?
mm. I think the first thing is really to remember that, we're all striving for this balance, aren't we, of everything in all contexts of our life, that actually, everything has equal amount of time, and it's this and it's that, and we feel calm and it's all working out great. And then, something comes in and, knocks the balance. And having that, I guess, is not realistic, is it? That everything should be even, because ultimately, if we think about that week before Christmas or the couple of weeks before Christmas, and there's loads of stuff on at school, isn't there, with the kids? And
Yeah.
maybe there's also loads of stuff on with your business, because maybe it's a product business and actually you are working right to that, Royal Mail deadline of getting things out. Or maybe it's a service business and actually, you've got people booked in that run up to Christmas, because then maybe you're going to take some time off in January, or however it looks, because all of our lives are so different and where we're at is so different. But at that period of time, for those 2, 3 weeks, those things, whether it's your business, whether it's the kids, whether it's both, are ultimately going to take priority. And so other things like maybe your self-care practices, maybe time with your partner, maybe time to do this or time to do that, or even if the focus is your kids and maybe your business is taking a bit of a backseat, that is okay. Like, we can't be functioning at this kind of like go, 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 go rate all of the time. And I did that for so long. Like I was running my business, working full time. And when I talk about running my business, I mean like I was working all hours outside of my full-time job. So I wasn't spending nearly enough time with my daughter as I would have, as I do now, like really present quality time. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just working. And ultimately, that's then burnout. And then you are exhausted, you are depleted. Then you can't do any of the stuff because you are, it's forced rest then, isn't it? You haven't got a choice. There's no way to power through that without taking some rest. And so I think when we're juggling all of those balls and something drops, or maybe we feel like something's about to drop, or maybe we just need to be like, okay, there's a week now where I just need to put my out of office on. It's going to take me a little bit longer to reply, or I've scheduled loads of stuff for social media, and maybe I'm not going to be as present because ultimately this thing is more important. Like, let's approach that with kindness and compassion for ourselves, because ultimately, if we were saying to a friend, or a friend was saying to us, there's all this stuff going on. Like something has to give right now. Like what can I take away just for now? Because it's not forever. It's a choice just for now, whether it's for a couple of days, a week, whatever. What would you be saying to that friend? You'd be saying, do that because that's what you need right now. If that was your child saying the same thing, you'd be, okay, come on, let's just press pause on that because ultimately this needs to take priority right now. And I think we're so good, aren't we, as mums who run our own businesses, of trying to keep all of those balls juggling because we feel like we have to. And actually, it's okay to let one of them drop, bearing in mind not a glass ball, so not the child or, something else that is really, is a non-negotiable. It's okay to let the other things drop occasionally. And I think within that also, someone said this to me, this is a couple of years ago now, and we were talking about like planning stuff in our diaries. And they said to me, we always leave space for things that are urgent that may or may not come up. Like I have space in my diary every week for an urgent. And so you're blocking that time out, whether or not you need it, for something that actually might just be an urgent that week. And how beautiful a gift is that, that actually I have the capacity to do that. I think it's that kind of it's reframing and changing kind of where we're coming at from things, isn't it? That actually, okay, right now, that bit can just be parked to one side. I can pick it up in a week, in a couple of weeks, in a month, because ultimately this other thing is way more important. And so coming back to what I was talking about with Christmas, before, that is such a busy time and it's such a good example, isn't it? Because everyone knows how busy that period of time is. And actually, Christmas never really feels like a rest, does it? Because you're on the go, you're seeing people, there's all these things booked in the diary. And so it's okay at that point to be like, something has to just drop. And maybe it doesn't drop fully. Maybe it's just those balances just tipped a little bit in favor of the other things, and we can even it back out or not at another point. And I think that comes from that learning curve, doesn't it? Of actually, you know, if my client wants to work with me, they're still going to be there if I take a couple of days off. They're not going to go anywhere. You know, if I've put, my out of office on or my online shop on holiday, or I post on social media that I'm not going to be here for a couple of days. Cool. That it's absolutely fine. So kindness and compassion is just that absolute key. And, again, as I said before, people are going to be sat there listening like, oh, Emma, come on, like, I can't let those balls drop. Like, and also, I am not kind and compassionate to myself, that people might actually be thinking that. And ultimately, let's just try a little bit. And this all comes from learning. So might not get it right the first time, you know. It is all a learning journey. Same as our kids are learning all of the time. As we're learning, as we grow our business, we don't need to have the answers. It doesn't need to be perfect straight away. Even just reframing that. Is that an urgent now? Do I need to do that right now? Actually, what else could I do instead? If that isn't an urgent, it can just be put on the list. And yes, I know our lists are never ending. There's so much to do on them. Actually, let's focus on what is a priority. Let's do those bits and not add in more expectation and pressure where we really do not need to, because there's already so much.
It really is. Yeah, there's again a couple of things. My ADHD brain is getting better at this. I can retain things from a conversation and come back to it. I never used to be able to in the early days of podcasting. I was like, whoop, it's gone. But I'm going to just pick on a couple of things there. And I love the idea of the one thing that really stuck out to me then was about the idea that, which, oh, I'm bringing the balls back. That sounds so wrong. Different podcast. But about the idea of them dropping. This is getting worse. So yeah, that you said about one that is almost about two,
Mm-hmm.
and that really struck a chord. I was thinking that is the point right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this idea, I'm sure you use this in your analogy of it, that maybe it's not just letting one drop or just before it, maybe it's actually placing it down, isn't it? Maybe that one that
Absolutely.
as we see it rolling towards the edge, we grab it and maybe park it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm taking from that. I love that. And I'm going to use that in my own sort of parenting style and just the expectations I put myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing. The second thing, I feel a bit of resistance, and I bet you get this from clients. We are so conditioned, and this has to come in patriarchy, motherhood, the mental load, how we are just meant to go, 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 go. And we put that pressure on ourselves. I think you touched on it about that kindness,
Mm-hmm.
compassion. We judge ourselves, don't we? How do you bring that into the conversation when you see somebody that is just full steam ahead, and no
Mm-hmm.
matter what you're saying to them, whether it is a friend or a client, how do you start to just slow them down? Because I guess they're not going to just stop, are they?
Mm-mm.
It'll be like a wind down process. But yeah, go on. Your
Mm-hmm.
top tips for people that are in that 100 miles an hour mode.
I think it's a learnt behavior, isn't it? And it's a learnt behavior to not do that anymore. I used to be absolutely terrible at not resting. So even if I was sat on the sofa watching something on telly that I was really interested in, I'd be on my laptop working, or I'd be on my phone, or I'd be, and now I'm like, it is forced, and it is forced also through my partner in the best way possible because he's like, come on, you need to rest. Like, what are you doing? Put that down, you know? And actually, those reminders don't come as much anymore because I've learned that actually that rest and that really present time is so key. And we're so good, aren't we? As you said, we just keep going, we keep going, we keep going. And then we're just so exhausted that then if anything comes at us, it's like, whoa, 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 like I can't cope with anymore. And now that I've learned that ability to rest, and it is ultimately, I'm going to keep saying that learned, like absolutely learned to just sit and do nothing. And I'm not talking about do nothing all day, like just an hour. That's just, um, like life just feels so much more at ease because I'm allowing myself that headspace just to be. The TV might be on, you know, I might be listening to some music or whatever, but actually I'm just allowing myself to rest and I guess, process everything else that's happened during the day, during the week, just being really present in that space. And it is so hard. So I think firstly, if we are someone who goes at 100 miles per hour all the time, it's absolutely on that hamster wheel. Just allow yourself to acknowledge where you're at, how you're feeling. Is that how you want to feel? Because some people really thrive in that space and other people ultimately don't, or they need a bit of a break from that. And so just acknowledging where you're at and actually listening inwards. And that again, it's a learned thing because we're so used to not doing that. Like we just logically listen to, from our head brain. Like, well, that's where we're at. And ultimately there's so much else going on internally for us. And so noticing, how we might be responding to situations, how we're feeling, what thoughts, what sensations, and ultimately not being judgmental of those because it is literally just information. Like we're just allowing ourselves to kind of notice and be, okay, well, when that happens, I feel like this, or when everything is, when there is that pressure, I feel like this. Some people respond really well to working under pressure and other people don't. We are all so different. And so if we can start to notice kind of what's going on for us, then we can start to dig deeper with that. And often that's when working with a coach can be really useful because ultimately we can explore kind of those discoveries in terms of, well, what other choices could I be making if I want to make a different choice? Because ultimately the choice is there and that's yours to do with what you wish. Do you want to change that up so that you could have this outcome, which potentially could be a better outcome? Or are you quite happy in that space? And is that serving you in that? So if we want to move away from that 100-mile-per-hour space, acknowledging what's happening, going on for us first is really important. And then ultimately allowing ourselves, giving ourselves permission, absolutely that permission, with compassion, with kindness, to then press pause on whatever it is we need to press pause on for that point in time. And whether that is an after school activity, whether that is part of your business, whether that is even just sat in and out of office of I'm not going to respond straight away. Like, do not respond, do not expect a response from me, you know. I'll respond in 72 hours, however long, doesn't need to be 72 hours, but I will respond in that amount of time, like I'm working around my children, blah, 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 blah. Like, let's just be really clear about those boundaries that we have for ourselves and our business and our family life as well. And that's going to help us navigate that space with so much more ease. I think also with that is looking at what that end goal is as well. Like, what is it you're wanting to get out of what it is that you're doing? My business, isn't going to grow potentially. It is growing absolutely amazingly, and I'm so proud of that. But it potentially isn't going to grow as much as someone who is working full time on their business or has more energy or more time or resource or perhaps more childcare or whatever that looks like. That journey for each of us is very different because we are all living in different circumstances with a different support system, different, amounts of energy, time, investment, all those sorts of things. And I've come to a space where now actually I feel really comfortable with running my business in a way that works for me rather than me working for it. And if during a week, like this week is a perfect example because my full-time job is super busy and my life outside of my work and my business is also super busy for the next few weeks, that ultimately my business has to take a bit of a back seat. That's okay. I will do the priorities. Anything else is going to have to take a back seat. And ultimately, acknowledging that energy level isn't quite where I'd like it to be. That is okay. Like, in 2 weeks' time, I am going to have so much more energy to go at it again like I was. Right now, it's okay just to be. 2 weeks is not going to make a massive difference in the long run. And so coming at that from a space of kindness, ease, compassion, just makes that experience so much more enjoyable and, removes that pressure, removes that expectation, and also removes some of that guilt of actually, well, I should be doing that and my business needs me off this, that, and the other. However, with everything I've said, it takes time to get to that place. Like, it's not an overnight. We can't magic of, our fairy godmother wand and be like, okay, this is how you can now, navigate the world and your business. It takes time. And ultimately, it's checking back in because at the start of last week, I was like, oh my gosh, my business, like, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not going to be able to for the next couple of weeks. So actually, the other things right now have to take priority because if I don't do those, then there's a knock-on effect later on down the line. So kindness, compassion, ease, and remembering that it's all going to be okay. Like 2 weeks, a week, whatever, a couple of days is ultimately, especially for your business, not going to make a massive difference in the long run. However, if you don't look after yourself, that's going to make a massive difference in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. With that, it's such a knock-on effect. And when you say it like this, so I love having these chats from a different perspective because we can keep going our business. And I did this in 2021. I burned out and I publicly share that. In a way, I've never really got back to that place in a good way. I've made sure I
Mm-hmm.
haven't. I put things in place to make sure that never happens again. It probably has held me back because then you've got that fear of success coming in. What if
Mm-hmm.
I go down that path again, start working those hours, get swayed by the opportunities? There's so much to it. But what you're saying and what I embody and what I try to say to people is about that compassion, that kindness, to unplug. And it is okay to unplug and recharge because ultimately you're going to then reconnect with your business. So when people even come to me from a brand strategy point of view and they're thinking, I'm just lost. I don't know if this is, what is my brand? What is my business? What is my why? I've lost sight of it. And actually, when you strip it back, it's normally something exactly like you're describing that is at the core. It's not that they've lost the passion. It's not that they've lost sight of what they're trying to achieve. They're just so shattered. They are so
Mhm.
burnt out and exhausted. How can anybody run like that? You just can't put that energy into your business. I talk about brand energetics. And if your energy isn't there, your business and your brand,
Mhm.
you might as well park it. And that's
Mhm.
what you're saying, isn't it? To be able to look
Mhm.
after ourselves. So yeah, with another thing that came up there for me was boundaries. This is a huge
Mm.
thing I've been working on. I really protect my time. So I'm co-parenting now, and that's been a whole new level because I am then full on for sort of 4 or 5 days with
Mhm.
my three daughters. They've got a neurodiversity going on. Three of them do clash. It's full on for those 4 or 5 days.
Mhm.
Then I find that I need, and I've had to really enforce this, I need that time to decompress. I need a full day afterwards of pretty much nothing. And
Mhm.
that's okay. I felt guilty to start with. Is that how you find it? Have you had to put certain boundaries in place for yourself, with friends, family, even navigating relationships? It's so
Mm.
hard, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, coming like from someone else who is co-parenting now as well, that actually, that time when you do have your kids is then so, that time is non-negotiable, no business, etc. time. I think in terms of boundaries, me and Isabella, my daughter, she gets that mummy works and she gets that mummy has her own business. And I try really hard not to schedule things in when I've got her. And sometimes that's, unavoidable, you know. However, I think from how I openly discuss kind of, mummy does this, this is why mummy does this. And, she sees mummy getting excited and mummy's going on training and mummy's doing this. And we were talking about my podcast the other week and I played a little bit for her and she's like, oh my God, mummy, it's you. And I think because we have that relationship and she kind of sees that, that makes it much easier for me then to put those boundaries in place of actually, I can't work during that time. Like Wednesday evenings are often a night that I do not work on my business. Like that's a non-negotiable me and Isabella time. Sometimes, there might be something that comes up and I'm like, okay, well, actually, I have to make the most of that opportunity. So we find time somewhere else to have that mummy and Isabella time. I think when we think about those boundaries, it can be so easy, can't it, to say yes to everything, to say yes to every opportunity, say yes to everything that comes your way, and also say yes to, for ourselves, like I'm just going to work on my business at this point, like, and do this, and then it becomes this hour and that hour, and it can quite easily just become all of the hours, can't it? And so I think it's being really, really clear of actually, and we come back to that balance thing again, like these, how we set our boundaries up is up to us. And whether that's a boundary for the next couple of weeks or whether it is a non-negotiable, maybe, this chapter of my life boundary, or this is always a boundary that's going to be there for me. I often find myself now setting like boundaries for maybe a couple of weeks. Like, this is my non-negotiable time for my business. This is my non-negotiable time for me and my partner, for me and the girls, for this, for that and the other. Like, that is that non-negotiable time. And I'm not going to say yes to other things in that time unless it's something I really want to do, or it is something that is completely unavoidable and it has to happen at that time. Whether that's a family event, whether it's, whatever it might be. And again, that comes from that kindness and compassion and actually really listening, like, is this right for me right now? And where I'm at with my life? Do I feel okay saying yes to that? Would I feel better if I said no? Let's not forget, though, where if we say no to things, there's often that element of guilt, isn't there? Of, you know, well, actually, I do feel guilty about that. But who does that guilt serve? Because the other person probably has no idea that you feel guilty. And I think that ties in really nicely with what self-care we were talking about before, like, especially when, for me, I find then taking that time when I do have Bella to, if, someone invites me to do something, actually, it's a lot harder for me to say yes to that because that's my time with her. However, I think it's also really important to notice when you do have that support network, which I'm very fortunate to have, the impact that your children are seeing if you don't make that time for yourselves as well. So me and Isabella were having a conversation the other week about what does mummy do for self-care. She's like, mummy gets her nails done. Mummy does this. I think she was like, mummy writes in her book. So she was talking about me journaling, and mummy goes to the gym. I was like, okay. And is mummy a better mummy when she goes to the gym? Was the question I asked her. She went, yes. And it was like this, like, mummy, you have to go to the gym. And so I think it's really interesting what they notice and what they pick up on in terms of those boundaries as well. And I often try to avoid going to the gym when I've got Isabella. Sometimes that is unavoidable, and I do go a weekend morning. And actually, I went the other week because we were going to the cinema, and I knew that with two kids going to the cinema, I would probably find it quite stressful. And actually, for me to take that hour before we went and did that was such a gift that I had given myself, and I'm very lucky that I had the support there for me to be able to go and do that. But I knew I was able to show up better for the kids if I went and did that. And that's a boundary, of actually I need this so that I can do the rest of the day with ease and compassion. Because I know that if I don't, I'm going to be impatient and potentially going to be a bit grumpy. And I need that time and space for me. And actually the cinema was completely fine because I've been to the gym, and I knew that I needed that. Again, all of this comes with learning and practice and noticing. Um, And I know that I'm in a really fortunate position with how my life is set up now, and it works really well for me and the people in my life. Ultimately, that's taken time to get there, and that's come with a lot of, listening to what's a priority, noticing how I'm feeling. And that's not to say that things aren't hard or overwhelming or chaotic at times. Absolutely not, because, life is far from perfect for anybody. However, because I feel calmer and because I am in a space where actually I have much more acceptance for where I'm at and the journey that I'm on, everything navigates with so much more ease, even when things are overwhelming and stressful.
Yeah, love it. And that's something that I used to struggle with, not so much there because, as you say, you develop that awareness, and it is definitely learning. I love that you keep
Hmm.
bringing that word in. This doesn't just happen. The fact that my three girls are watching, and I don't want them. There's two ways this can go. It's like I want them to see that I'm taking that time for me, and that mummy can have time to herself. And this is when you get older, they're modeling that behavior. If you're
Hmm.
a mum, you're allowed that time. If we show them that actually we're a burnt out mum and this is just how life should be as soon as you have children, I don't want my three girls doing that. Not at all. I want to show them the other side. But also the work side, I think the boundaries are tough because if I don't show them working, and in the past, perhaps family have made comments about it, like, oh, put your work away. And it's sort of, well, no, because I want them to see, I want to inspire
Hmm.
them. Again, I can't show that I don't work. So it's such a difficult
Hmm.
juggle, isn't it? And the one word that came up, and I think you said it a couple of times, is mum guilt.
Mm.
That is so hard, isn't it? I don't think we've got so much time to go into that because I'm going to wrap up in a minute with asking you some self care tips. But how do we start to break that down? Is it just what you said about this learning, that
Mm.
conditioning, the mum guilt that we're meant to feel guilty if we're taking time for ourselves, or even if we're working our business? There's guilt that side as well, isn't it? We're trying
Hmm.
to like earn a living and make a difference to the world, and we still feel guilty.
Absolutely. And I think, it does come back to that learning, like, how does that guilt serve us? Because it really doesn't.
Mm,
It's not going to make us work harder or smarter or it's not going to make us not do those things because ultimately they are important. They're important for us to show our children, as you just said, that you can work hard and you can juggle things successfully in a way that works for you. It doesn't have to be this fitted mold, of I should do this, I should do that. That guilt is not going to go away. So it's kind of like acknowledging it, like it's here.
yeah,
Actually, I don't need to pay any particular attention to it because what I'm doing I'm not being selfish. I'm caring for myself or I'm working on my business and I'm modeling that behavior for my children of actually, you can go after your passions, you can go after stuff that you want. You have to work hard for it.
yeah,
It's going to take time. And that time means you have to put energy, time, money, etc. into it. Sometimes that's going to clash with family life. I think it's how you come at it and you approach it, and that that actually, when you are working, well, you explain that to your children. I always do that with her, like, Mummy just needs 10 minutes just to do this. And actually, now she's like, she gets it, she'll go and do whatever for, not that she recognizes how long 10 minutes is. She's 6, but she will be like, Mommy, are you finished? Like, just give me a couple more minutes and then I am done and I am all yours. But if I don't do this, this is the reason why, this is the impact it's going to have. And they will understand what they can from that,
Yeah.
at an age appropriate level. But I think then when you flip that around and you see how proud they are of you for when you achieve something and you celebrate that with them, like, that makes it all worth it. Like, I had an article published in a magazine a month ago, and Bella was like, find Mummy in the magazine, like, Mummy's had an article published. She was like, oh my God, Mummy, like, she was so excited. And to see that, that ultimately it's not just about us being proud of our children, it's about our children being proud of us too, and us also living our lives, because motherhood is such a space of growth and transformation, not just for our children, also for us as well. And it can be such an empowering, beautiful space if we let it be.
Love that. If we let it be, yeah, we can let this consume us and be. I felt that in the past, you've probably been there yourself, where you feel like you've been run into the ground, and it's like, this is my life now, motherhood. I'm just depleted,
Mm-hmm.
and my business is over. I've had all these dramatic thoughts, and you do it at different times.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the fact that we're inspiring our children. Like my 10-year-old the other night, I'd gone to say goodnight to her, and should have been asleep or should have been reading a book. But she had a sketchbook out and she was drawing logo ideas. And suddenly, within a little conversation we had, she'd come up with a business idea, a business name, what she was going to sell. She was showing me examples of the little beads she'd made for jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the impact, isn't it? We are teaching them that
Mm-hmm.
they can be and do whatever they want. They don't have to conform to the system. They don't have to go and get a 9 to 5. They can if they want, but they don't have to. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that at the core, I just love everything that you do, Emma, because that is the positive effect, not just for ourselves, but for who we're inspiring, who's watching. They are
Mm-hmm.
always watching, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Love it. Let's finish up with something we've said snippets. I'd
Mm-hmm.
love you to give, and I'm putting you on the spot here. So as many as you want to. It could be the top 3, top 5, but even one tip. We're saying about bringing this self-care in, and you said
Mm-hmm.
about doing it with ease. You've given some brilliant examples already, but let's round this off with 1 to 3 top tips of how we can bring that self-care in, especially if this is completely new to somebody.
Yeah, so with self-care, I would always say, and my first tip would be to start simple. And by simple, I mean like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, something that you can easily add into what you're already doing. So self-care doesn't always have to be about adding in, it can also be about taking stuff out too, or attaching it to something that we're already doing. So if we are somebody who likes to read a book, for example, and perhaps now reading once children are there, is quite unachievable, whether it's the focus, whether it's the time. Um, how about we put an audiobook on while we are doing the washing up, or we're making tea, or we are driving back from the schoolroom? It doesn't have to be that actually we can't do the things that we used to do because children, business, whatever, kind of, it's quite difficult. So let's just change it up a little bit. I think my second tip would be, if we're really struggling to think of ideas, because often that can be a massive barrier, like, actually, what self-care do I need? What's going to help? Well, if I try this and it doesn't work, then what do I do? Have I wasted my time, etc., etc. So my next tip would always be to come at it from a more experimental sort of, mindset, that actually, let's just try it and see. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. It's okay. We tried. Let's try something else. Let's change it up a bit. Let's do this. Let's do that. The same as if our child was struggling with something, we would help them problem solve that. We wouldn't just be like, just give up. It's fine. Let's try it this way. If it still doesn't work, fair enough. You know, but let's try it a different way. And my third tip would be just breathe. Like breathing is such a beautiful way that we can calm ourselves, we can ground ourselves, we can bring ourselves back to the present, and it can really help us at different points of our day as well. So it's not just about, well, I've done 5 minutes of self-care this morning, like that's it, I'm done, tick the box. Self-care isn't about that. It's not a box ticking exercise. It is there to support us and nourish us as we navigate our days. And so if we are finding situations quite stressful, or maybe, we arrive to the school run and we feel frazzled and like, and then we know that we've got that kind of next chapter of our day of tea time, bedtime, maybe the running around for after school clubs, maybe, bath time, etc., etc. Just take a few breaths before we go and, get the kids. It could even be something that we do in the schoolyard, might just stand there and just take some deep breaths in and out, and let's calm our nervous system. Let's really ground ourselves into that next phase. So start simple, try and see what you enjoy, and breathe would be my 3 top tips.
Amazing. Love it. Well, thank you so much. That's a brilliant place to leave it at. And anybody who is listening or watching on YouTube, do let us know if you give this a go. If it's something that's totally alien to you, or perhaps you've tried and then you've dropped the ball again. That can happen. The more children you have, or the more you take on in your business or new role at work. Yeah, come and let us know if you're going to reconnect with any of that or try it from scratch. And do check out all of Emma's links in the show notes. And yeah, I would say to consider even getting support with Emma if this is something that resonates with you. As a business owner, we wouldn't hesitate to get a business mentor, a business coach. But to me, I just think it's so key, isn't it, to get that support with yourself as well. And we 100% are worthy of it. That's a whole
Mm.
different episode, probably. That the work probably comes in, doesn't it? If I brought something up last second that we chat about for an hour, might have to get you back, Emma. We'll talk about self-worth maybe in motherhood. But yeah, do check out all of Emma's links and come and connect with both of us if you'd like to chat about anything from today, if you've had any light bulb moments. Thank you so much, Emma. It's been brilliant to chat to you.
Thank you.
Mhm.